Here's video number 2 in the series of the registrar videos, where we ask them really important questions about life after med school for you guys. Just remember, if you watch the video on YouTube, you can fast track your way through the questions by clicking on the links down below.
My name is Acrane. I am currently a first year radiology registrar.
My name is Vasquez. I am a radiology reg at the start of December.
So my name's Rohana, and I'm a radiology registrar.
I'm Mark. I'm a first year radiology reg.
When do people find time to do other things like get married or have babies?
So some people who are really career driven will put off everything until once they've reached their destination. But I think most of us have the ethos that life's about the journey, not the destination, and you just have to do what you want along the way. You try and time it so you're not going to get married like a month before some exams or something like that, but you know, you can get time off, do what you want. I took 3 months off as a house officer and went travelling around Europe because I'd always wanted to do that, and a lot of people said, oh, you know, it'll look bad on your CV, and to be honest, I think it actually worked to my advantage because it shows that you've got other, you know, strings to your bow and you like to do other things, and it's a bit of sort of diversity. And also it means that when you're on the training program you can say, hey, I've already done some travelling and had some time out, I'm not going to get on and then take a year out and screw you over. As regards to sort of having a family, it is really tricky. A lot of people talk to female consultants to find out how did they do it, what do they think about it, and the general answer is that there's never a right time, and you just have to make it work. So if you're desperate to have kids, then you know, have them as a house officer or have them as a registrar. If you're, you know, quite keen to get your career underway, then do that as well. But it's so important to remember that you're not necessarily fertile forever. So I do know of people who have left it so late that they end up not, you know, being able to have kids, or they have to go through IVF. So you know, if you've got lots of family support and all that sort of thing, then you can make it work. It also comes down to what type of parent you want to be. Like, some people are desperate to be a stay-at-home sort of a person and be around a lot. Other people are happy for childcare and that sort of thing. So it comes down to personal preference and how much support you have.
People got married in medical school and stuff like that, but I think it just comes down to when you're actually ready to. I wasn't ready to marry my wife then. I still had questions about her. So yeah, it's easy getting the time off to do it. You know, getting a week off. I think I had 2 weeks off during my wedding, one before, so we had family overseas and stuff coming over, and one after for a bit of a holiday, and yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
What do you get in terms of study resources later on?
I think the study resources are very good because there's a lot of courses and books that you can get reimbursed for them when you're working. So in house officer years, I made a point to try and do as many of those courses as I could, which is awesome because you get to travel to sometimes out of the country or to another region to do like a surgical course or an anesthetic course, and then you don't have to pay for it. So I think there's really good resources out there for study.
So how did you handle the competitive nature of getting selected for specialties, and what kind of hoops did they put you through?
I think in any kind of competitive environment, when you know there are a lot of people applying for something and you think, oh, you know, why would they pick me? Your natural sense is to think, I'm not good enough, everyone else is better than me, everyone's smarter, their CVs are better, you know, it's hard to find the confidence. And I think my advice was what my dad always told me was that just be yourself, and if they like you for who you are, then you know you'll be successful, and if they don't, then maybe they're not the people who you want to work with or the type of specialty you want to get into. For pretty much for every job now you have to interview, and that's always really tough. You don't know what questions they're going to ask. And for our radiology interviews, we had 3 rooms, we had 18 people interview us over the course of like 20 minutes, and it was so intense. And you always think, you know, you're double guessing what your answers would be. The advice I got from the consultants beforehand was just to say, like, be honest. They can tell if you're giving them an answer that they think you want to hear, you think they want to hear. Just be yourself, and they just want to know who you are and what you're about.
For me personally, I think being competitive is not about sabotaging anyone else. It's about how you go about improving yourself, right? You want to be the better candidate. I mean, of course you do, because you want to get in. But as collegial in that process of while being competitive. But what you could do is that you could just be a good person, a helpful person, and then other people actually see that this person is, despite being, needing to be compete, but is actually offering his aid to other people. And that is actually viewed upon very positively. People on selection committees, they actually see these qualities. They like team players. So when they hear stories about people like that, they're like, I want this guy in my program.
Have you got any role models in medicine? And if so, who are they?
Yeah, I'd say I've got a couple of mentors. One was he was my first medical consultant when I was a house officer, and just really got along with him. I liked how he related to patients. He had a good work-life balance. He was kind of just someone to aspire to, not only as a doctor, but as a person as well. And the other guy's an oncologist, and he's just someone I touch base with maybe a couple of times a year, flick him an email. It's usually pretty personal, but there's always a little bit of professional, what I'm up to in there. And I think it's good to have role models, and just to keep in contact with them.
It's not one specialty that I found the constant role models in my career. So, it would range from cardiologists to a geriatrician and to general surgeons. What I've taken from their modeling is that they've found a way to balance medicine with their goals and their passions. Not limited themselves to any perceived notion of any specialty. So there's a GP who was still doing lots of ED and practical stuff, and there was a geriatrician who was very passionate about teaching, and a surgeon who was also very passionate about teaching, which I think is why I've always carried on that teaching aspect to my career and working at a university now.
When, if ever, will we be able to practice medicine autonomously?
When you start as a house officer, you can practice medicine autonomously, but it's to varying degrees, and that's the same for everyone. So, during the day, if you feel comfortable to make a certain decision about changing a medication, or, you'll probably start out and those decisions will be very small, but they'll still be ones that you've made on your own, using your own experience. And then as you get more comfortable and more experienced, I guess gravity of those decisions increases, and by the time you're sort of a second year house officer on nights, usually you actually manage pretty much everything you encounter on your own, and you only call when you're again out of your depth. And even consultants, they when they're not sure, ask their colleagues. So it's all varying degrees of experience, but I think when you start as a house officer, you should be making autonomous decisions.
Our practice is now under the scrutiny of both the medical council, the public, and everything. They're putting more and more process in terms of what's called best practice medicine. It's really just, you have to constantly update your profile saying that you have done this much CME, which is kind of continuing medical education, this much conferences, and that there is always, you need a supervision body to constantly supervise you to make sure you are being a qualified doctor and that you're not practicing below the bar. A lot of it is you're governed really by what the literature say. A lot of it is also what's governed by what the protocols that the hospital release say. But as I say, someone like GPs, it's a lot less. So I think it's a degree of autonomy rather than anything else.
What advice would you give to us in choosing our selectives and electives along the way at med school?
I think, a lot of people, the advice is generally go and, get experience in an area that you want to go into to further your career, because it'll look good on your CV. From what I've seen, what you like during medical school is actually very different to what you end up enjoying later on. And so I don't think you should commit yourself too early, and I think particularly the elective, because your TI year is kind of a special year in itself, you really use it as an opportunity to go and do something that you would never normally get to do. Get out of your comfort zone, make sure you go with a friend or two, and really go somewhere that, particularly rural places, practicing rural medicine in the far corners of the earth. You never get to do that again, and it also gives you a really good experience of, you get thrown in the deep end a little bit, you get out of your comfort zone, you meet people from other countries, and you get to do some travelling as well. And I went to rural Africa for 3 months, and I absolutely loved it.
It's that period of time where you have a lot of choice. use that to kind of get out of New Zealand and see a different health system. It's also a very good opportunity to travel while you're studying, and I think it just gives you a bit more of a world picture on health and also training in other countries.
So if you could go back, what advice do you wish you were given before going into the hospital?
The most important piece of advice is to remember that you're not on your own, and it's important to support each other and help each other and be collegial. And if you'll start out with a group of people, and if you notice that one of them's struggling or they're having a really busy day, help them if you have the time, and they'll return the favour and work together, and so you all swim. I think it's really, really important, and don't dump your colleagues in the poop, and look after each other, and I think you'll be fine.
Make sure you have some common sense. I think that's really what gets you through a bulk of your work. It's very different to answering questions on an exam paper. When the war zone out there of the hospital, that doesn't happen. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just having a bit of common sense to work through the issue at hand. What's the pertinent information to get. Another thing is common sense also means that you don't add a lot of stress to yourself. So I think having that common sense and just knowing the system a bit really helps you get through all the stress and not put too much work on yourself. So I think understanding the system and having a common sense is really important. And I wish someone would have told me that so I don't chase every single issue down about the patient.